The family of the victim of a police shooting in Alabama has ordered an autopsy to find out exactly the manner in which Emantic E.J. Fitzgerald Bradford Jr. was killed. There's a photo of him there. He was the man who was present in the mall shooting on November 22nd in Hoover, Alabama. And at first the police insinuated that he was the guy shooting people. And so they shot him, and it became very clear afterward that he was not the actual gunman. But according to the attorney for the family, Bradford, attorney Benjamin Crump, says the autopsy shows gunshots to Bradford's back of right side of head, right side of neck, and right side of back at hip. So that means that according to the family's own autopsy report that they ordered, he was shot in the back. So this is just another development to this already, I guess, just dubious story from the police as it developed over time. Reports from, so that's from the independently hired pathologist. Hoover police initially portrayed Bradford as the mall gunman and said officers acted heroically to, quote, take out the threat within seconds of shots being fired in the crowded mall. They later retracted the statement and said, well, Bradford was seen with a handgun, and then they continued. But they said that he was seen with a handgun. But this proves that he was not running toward the officers, he was running away, according to these latest reports.
The same story that we have seen so often, Black men being shot in the back or with their arms up or while they're being subdued or, I mean, what's frustrating for me about this, the biggest frustration is that as soon as police wanna come out and say, hey, listen, our officers were heroes, this is a bad guy, we wanna tell you about it, we get information immediately. But when it turns out someone wrongfully killed him, now all of a sudden we can't hear anything. So when he was potentially the shooter, we can talk about it, and police are willing to talk about it. But when someone shot him, then now we can't talk about that. We can't know anything about that because it's gonna mess with the evidence and gonna mess with the investigation. And the police are supposed to kind of work for all of us, and so it doesn't seem fair.
Well, the authorities claim they now finally arrested the right guy. So how would it interfere with the investigation? No, it would interfere with you covering your own ass.
Right.
And so there are video cameras all over the mall, and the cops have them, and they're like, no, not releasing those. My guess is that if it showed that the officer had acted appropriately, they'd release them a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And so the 3 bullet holes in E.J. Bradford's back indicate that they did not act properly, including what some are describing as a kill shot to the back of the head. And so his dad's a cop, and so there was a press conference that they did with a lot of upset family members, and I think that if they shot your son in the back of the head, you'd be pretty upset too.
Right.
And he kept saying the people who did this are cowards. And that's a word I've used from time to time. He says it's not the training. That's where I disagree with him. I think they are trained oftentimes to be that way. And even in their own statement, we got them within seconds. Within seconds, that indicates maybe that you acted a little rash.
Right.
Like, and I've said this now, I feel like 1,000,000 times on the show. I remember the old days when they would say, freeze, you're under arrest, put your hands up. Things along those lines. No, now they just come in guns blazing, literally. Oh, I don't know if that's the guy. He has a gun. Now, he could be a good guy with a gun, right? That's what the NRA dreams about, fantasizes about. Oh, but he's black. Okay, so we're not gonna tell him to freeze. We're not gonna tell him to put his hands up. Within seconds, we're just gonna shoot him in the back of the head and put him down. And then go, oh, oops, he was a veteran. Oops, we got the wrong guy. That's why you say freeze and you don't shoot someone in the back.
But the thing is, even when saying, like, I remember when they used to say freeze, put your hands up, that's not because that was the only thing happening. That's just because that was the only narrative that we heard because we didn't have social media and we didn't have cell phone cameras. This same stuff has been happening since the beginning of policing in this country. It's just that now there's an audience for it.
There is one story that was in the news recently. We covered it last week on, I think, the Friday show, where we do have tons of information about what happened in a case of police brutality. And the only reason we have that information is because the person brutalized by the police was an undercover cop. And every single aspect of that story, every single one is every like imaginable trope from like a TV drama about dirty cops. It's, they erased his cell phone, they said they wouldn't release evidence, they lied to the grand jury, all that stuff. They covered their own butts. And only in that case is the victim believed because that victim himself was a cop. And in these situations, you're absolutely right. I mean, even the way that they qualified it, they said, new evidence now suggests that while Mr. Bradford, this is the police talking, while Mr. Bradford may have been involved in some aspect of the altercation, he likely did not fire the rounds that injured the 18-year-old victim. But weird way to say like may have been involved in some aspect of the altercation. They're still keeping it ambiguous, and it turns out that that's the friend, but there's still like, the reports are that his friend was the one that was murdered. But even then, just saying like, why don't you say that? Involved in some aspect of the altercation is different than this guy watched his friend get murdered.
Yeah, because if it was two white guys and his friend had pulled out a gun to defend him, he'd be a good guy with a gun. But now, well, since we shot him in the back of the head, we have to smear him after he's dead. This is the MO we've seen all across the country. Oh, but Trayvon Martin once got suspended in school. I'm not kidding, in high school. That's one of the ways they smeared him. They did a toxicology test on him. Did he? Every single black man who's unarmed, who's shot, well, did he ever smoke marijuana? Did he sell loose cigarettes, etc.? In this case, he's a veteran. He's squeaky clean. It appears that he was trying to help the victim. So what do? He was somehow involved in the altercation. Oh, God damn it, guys. After you shoot him in the back of the head, at least have the decency not to do character assassination on top after you already killed him. But no, the most important thing in the world is to protect their own ass. And that's what this is about. And so Brooke is absolutely right. We didn't have body cameras. We didn't have cameras in all the malls. And so, yes, cops in the past would also brutalize people and oftentimes minorities. But I actually think that in some ways, especially in lethal ways, it has gotten worse. And part of the reason for that is because almost everybody in the country has a gun. And so now we teach the cops, whatever you do, immediately murder the person, and then we'll figure it out later. And they brag about it. One of the codes that the cops constantly say is, better to be judged by 12 than carried out by 6. So just shoot the guy, kill him, who cares? Because I'll be judged by 12, and you know what that means, we're cops. We're gonna get away with it 99.999% of the time, then take even a 1% or a 1% chance that I could get injured, because my life is more important than that young guy's life. And so that leads to people being shot nonstop across the country unjustly, and this time again, and again they smear them afterwards. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.